Lord to worship, and we hope you come ready to hear God's word and to share his love with the folks around you. Let's begin our worship with an older hymn, Lead On, O King Eternal. Let's stand as we sing it.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, we're getting ready to start our spring brunch, our ladies event, this coming Saturday, the 29th, from 10 to noon. We want you to dust off your bonnet, your hat, a ball cap, whatever makes you comfortable, but bring your hat, wear your hat. And we're going to have a fun morning of fellowship. We're going to enjoy food together. We're going to have various teas. And we're going to have music from our praise and worship team. So I invite all of you ladies to come out next Saturday, well, this coming Saturday, and just have a great morning with us. Thanks.
Thanks, Audrey. And that was this Saturday. What time was it, Audrey?
10 to noon.
10 to noon. So be sure to be there for that. This morning as well, we will have the Gideons come up in just a second, representative from there. I'm sure you guys are all familiar with who the Gideons are, but he's going to share with us a little bit more about their ministry and what all they do. And then I'm bringing the sermon later from Psalm 23. Right after church service, if you are a youth or a parent, we're going to have a quick meeting in the fellowship hall just for summer things going on, summer events happening. And so I will get there whenever I'm done up here, and we'll go over just some things happening in the summertime with camp, mission trip, and all that stuff, dates. So you guys can have that, and then go from there. And then you can check the bulletin for other announcements and things going on. So with that, I will pray, and then JB, you're up. So that's right. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. God, we just praise your name. We thank you for the risen Savior that, God, you defeated death, that we are able to enjoy life, God, that we are able to sing your praises. And I pray that all that we do, that we would give glory to you. God, that we are able to share with others your love and mercy that you have given to us, that they may know the salvation that you bring. God, I pray all this in your Son's name.
As JB comes forward, I just wanted to say, come on up, JB. And so as he comes, I want to make sure that Scott mentioned about the Gideons. I think most people are familiar with Gideons. He's going to tell you about what their ministry is going on, what's going on with their ministry. But specifically, I want to suggest one question. What would it be, where would it be like without Gideons? You go to a motel, you go to a hospital, you go to the students graduating from college, high school and college. What would it be if there was not a Bible in that hotel room or that motel room or that hospital room? What would it be like? And then there'll be a couple ushers at the back of the sanctuary at the end of the service to receive an offering you have to give to the Gideon ministry.
Well, good morning, everybody. You know, it's a nice spring weather, but you know, when I went up and fed this morning, I didn't look at the calendar, but I thought that was December. Now, if any of you is out before the sun come up this morning, the pastures was white as snow. It didn't look like spring, but the pastures was white as snow. So I thought maybe I had my dates mixed up, but I guess we are in the spring. And I want to get as much in the Gideons as we can this morning, and I'll give you a little rundown. We've got a lot of good things going on in the Gideon, and I'm going to put as much in as I can this morning. And in a little bit, when I give y'all some testimonies, I want you to think of one thing. When I tell about how many Bibles we give out, you can say, well, that's got to save a lot of souls. But this morning in my message this morning, I want you to think of one little Bible, how God can take one little Bible and save many souls. So keep that in mind this morning as we go on with the service this morning. And I'd like to give you just a little bit of rundown. The Gideons are a business professional men, and we've shared the gospel for over 110 years. And we're in 200 countries in the world today. And this Bible is written in 93 different languages. And to give you a little scope of each day, the Gideons, 365 days a year, average out, the Gideons give out 178,000 Bibles every day. So that's quite a few Bibles. And today, the Gideons we have passed the 2 billion Bibles. It's 2.6 billion Bibles. We're working on the 3 billion Bibles that the Gideons give out. And in some of our testimonies this morning, you know, we go to the jail and we put the Bibles in all the motels and doctor's offices and nurses. And as we go to the jail, in fact, I got to go to the jails this afternoon, as we go and testify to them guys, you know, y'all need to pray for them, because they're people just like us that made a mistake. And we like to go and we give them all a Bible, and usually before they get out of there, we've had them to give their heart to Jesus Christ. But one thing kind of disturbs us, when they leave the jail, we never know exactly what they've done. So this first testimony I want to give of the jail. Of all the years I've been to the jail, we've had reports of this guy and that guy. They've done good, they're doing good. But to have someone to come to me personally and tell them that you led us to Jesus Christ, that means something. So I'd like to tell this story. At my wife's funeral, as most of you know, I lost my wife, I'm married again. I had a good one, he gave me another good one. So you can't beat that. To get two in a row, pat yourself on the back. So anyway, at the visitation, this guy waited in line probably an hour, and he come up to me and he said, "JB, do you remember me?" And I said, he told me who he was, and I said, now names don't register with me. But I said, I'll never forget a face, but I said, I cannot remember you. And he said, when I was in jail, and you came to the jail, and you asked me to give my heart to Jesus Christ, he said, I did. And he said, you told me to do two things. And I said, what was the two things I told you? He said, you told me the first thing to do is get new friends. I said, yes. I said, what was the next thing I told you? He said, you told me to find a good church. You didn't say what kind, just to find a good church. So, of all the years I went through the jail ministry, to have one personally come and tell me that you led me to Jesus Christ through the Bible. And that takes it all in, that Jesus is still working in the world today. And like I say, I like to just remember on some of my testimonies what one little Bible do. You might say, well, JB, if y'all give out 178,000 Bibles every day, what will one more Bible amount to? Listen to these testimonies, and you'll see what one Bible does. This young boy was in the hospital, and he come out of the hospital, and as he's walking down the aisle, he noticed in a trash can. Now remember, this Bible was thrown away. The devil thought in his mind, he put a mark down, I got that one. Nobody's going to see that Bible no more. Well, this boy picked the Bible up, and he took it home and he read it, and he gave his heart to Jesus Christ. But his dad and his mother and his brothers and sisters, they shunned him. They didn't want nothing to do with religion. But the boy hung on to his religion. And he went to a university, a Christian university. But he never gave up on his folks. And now I want you to remember this little Bible. What happened to that little Bible? It was thrown away. Gone forever, according to us humans. But you know, we can't outguess what God is going to do. God seen that little guy, picked up that Bible, and took it home and gave his heart to Jesus. Now his family didn't want anything to do with him, but I want to read just the last sentence of his testimony that he wrote in. And he says there, my grandfather and grandmother, 2 brothers, and my sister came to Christ. 8 people give her heart to Jesus Christ. 8 people give her heart to Jesus Christ. For what? One little Bible that was thrown away. Somebody bought that little Bible and gave it to the Gideons. And the Gideons, through the chains, thrown it away. So you see, one Bible does mean a lot. So, as you're thinking this morning, well, should I buy one Bible? You never know if the Lord tarries and I don't get too old. Someday I might be up here saying a story that a Bible that you bought, what it done to save souls. And so, and another boy that I'd like to tell a story on, I tell a lot of testimonies on one little Bible. Now we have testimonies on the big Bibles too. but we tell the testimony just like it comes into us. And I'd like to tell any of y'all right now, if you have a good testimony of something happened to the Gideons or your friends, you tell me, because I'm not to be trusted. You tell me and I'll tell it all over the county. I even tell it in character. So I can't keep it quiet. You tell me a good story and I'll tell it all over Saline County. And this young boy went to dental school, and his parents was Christians, and they sent him to dental school. And then college and stuff he got in, he got off track. He got into drugs, and his parents went to see him, and they said, "Now, son, you've got to straighten up. You're going to get in trouble." And so his dad didn't give him a Gideon Bible. Before he left, he gave him a Bible. Well, as soon as he left, the son just threw the Bible away. He said, "I'm not going to read that." Well, his mother prayed this prayer. And I would like to say this. Now, if some of you younger folks in there and your parents are praying for you, and your mother gets praying for you, you better be pretty close, because sometimes the mother can get close to God. And this is the prayer that the mother prayed. She said, "God, whatever it takes, lead my son back to Jesus Christ." So anyway, the son kicked him out of the house, his apartment. And they left, and about 2 weeks later, the police come and arrested him for selling drugs on the street. So they took him to the jail. And as he was walking down to his jail cell, there in the wastebasket laid a little book. He picked it up, and it was a little Gideon Bible. And he took it to the cell with him, and he read it and gave his heart to Jesus Christ. And then his story as it goes, he got saved, and he helped the guys in prison know Jesus Christ. But I want to read the last thing in his thing, because I could read it exactly the way he put it. When he was released from prison, he became a professor and teacher in Moody Bible College. He tells his story of going to a prisoner, to a professor, with the help of one little Gideon Bible. You see how God works? He took that little Bible that was thrown away. You know, me and you would probably say, that Bible's gone. But you know, you can't never outsmart God. God got a purpose for His Word. And He put that Word in His little book. And that's what the Gideons do. Around the world, we try to give Bibles to everyone that we possibly can. So that guy became a professor after his mother prayed for him. Whatever it takes, get my son back to Jesus Christ. And I'd like to tell you one more story. I got one more time, a good testimony come in. This guy, we're just calling him Marty, always wanted to be a preacher. Well, when he went off to college, he got sidetracked. He got on drugs and other things, and he just lost out. So, and Marty landed some good jobs when he got out of college, and the money You know, money don't hurt anything, but the love of money gets you. And this guy bragged on himself. He landed these big jobs. He didn't have time for God. He was making too much money. And he went to this one conference he had. And they gave him a big raise and give him time off to spend. And he was so happy. He's making so much money now, he didn't need anybody. He had it made. He thought he had it made. So he went to the motel that night, and he had a martini in one hand and a cigarette in the other hand, and he was bragging how good he's done. He's making all this money now. He didn't need anybody. And about that time, it says in his testimony, in his motel room, his knees went to shaking. He didn't know what was wrong with him. And he got where he couldn't hardly walk. And he fell down on his knees beside the bed. And he said, oh my goodness. He said, I need a Bible. He said, I wonder if some Gideon has done their job. And he crawled over to the desk and he pulled out the drawer and reached his hand in there. Sure enough, some Gideon had done their job. They put the Bible in that motel room. And he got it out and he read it. And he gave his heart to Jesus Christ. And he became a preacher. Then 18 years later, him and his wife was on a trip and going through Florida. And he said, we're going to stay at that same hotel. He said, I'm going to tell that guy and see if I can find out who put that Bible in that room for me. And he went to the desk, told me he was going to stay all night, and told the clerk his story. And he says, I know that guy. Oh, he said, he does. I'd sure like to know who he was. He said his name is Roy. And this might be a little touch for some of you folks that's getting up in the years, kind of like me. You know, when you get 65, well, it's time to step out of Sunday school. It's time to do this. Let some of these young ones do it. Well, he said, I'd sure like to meet that guy named Roy. He said, I know him personally. He says he's well up in his 90s. He still comes once a month or two and puts Bibles in the classroom and in the motels. So you see, it don't matter how old you get. You never get too old to work for Jesus Christ, because He is what we're striving for. Some days we'll be there. Sometimes you might have trials and you think, man, my life is just shot. I'm not going to make it. Just think of some of these Bibles that was thrown away. You might think it was shot. Well, you might think your life was shot, but it is not. Jesus Christ is the answer. You come to Him, He's just as close as you call His name. And Jesus can lift you up, just like the Bible. So if you think, what will one Bible amount to? Look, just what I told you. Somebody had to buy each one of these Bibles. And you never know what Bible you buy, what great things it could do. And I do like to thank y'all for having me. And we usually come around once a year. And I got a little thing I'd like to say, that if you think it won't count, the Bible. This little boy was walking down the beach, and the water come in and left these little starfish all along the ocean front. And he was walking along throwing them back in the ocean. And the guy up on the dock seen him, and he walked down there and he said, young man, he said, you can't make a difference. He said, there's thousands of these little fish down there. And the little boy was nice and polite, never said a word. He reached out, picked up one more, and he threw it out in the ocean. And he looked up at the gentleman and said, I made a difference in that way. So you see, the Bible that you buy might make a difference in someone's life. And I thank you guys for having me, and we appreciate it. And God bless you, and pray for the Gideons. It's a big task these days to get the Bible out, but we're going to keep working until we get old, and that's going to be for a while. So when I get old, I'll probably quit. Otherwise, I'll keep going. And thank you all for having this morning.
We have two ushers in the back of the sanctuary. Believe you want to give a donation to the Gideon Ministry this morning. Dismiss our children's worship for children's worship at this time. Roy and Margaret's waiting for you in the back. Kids, you're free to go. We're going to stand and sing our offertory hymn. There's Within My Heart a Melody. He keeps me singing. Our offertory hymn. Gage, first, second, and last. First, second, and last. There's within my heart a melody. Jesus whispers sweet and low. Fear not, I am with thee. Peace be still. In all of life's ebb and flow. Jesus, 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 sweetest name I know. Fills my every longing, keeps me singing as I go. All my life was wrecked by sin and strife. Discovered my heart again. Jesus swept across the broken strings, stirred the slumbering chords again. Jesus, 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 sweetest name I know. Fills my every longing, keeps me singing as I go. He's coming back to welcome me, far beyond the starry sky. I shall wing my flight to worlds unknown. I shall reign with him on high. Jesus, 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 sweetest name I know. Fills my every longing, keeps me singing as I go.
Well, I'm not Randy, but we'll do it anyhow. I'm Larry. I've got some prayer requests, or some people we need to remember in our prayers. Kathy Mullins is at Bothwell. The Pointer family is recently had loss of Jim Pointer. A few weeks ago, Gladys had passed. And Andrew and Jody Rice, they got married yesterday. Emily Pogue is legendary. Just keep these people in your prayers. Thank you, Lord, for allowing us to be here today. And ask that you would be with the Gideon organization and continue to bless that passing Bibles around. I thank you for the way you blessed each of us. Help us to find ways of telling others about you and have the courage and words to speak to them. Help us to give our tithes and our offering and of our time, which is democratic.
Good morning again. Good morning. So, I always enjoy getting up here and being able to preach and to be able to bring God's word to y'all. We'll be in Psalm 23 this morning. And you know, I usually know about a month and a half to 2 months before I preach. Chris usually comes to me and asks if I'd be willing to preach this day. And I'm like, yeah, wherever you guys need. Like, I'll preach whenever. So, like, it's probably about a month and a half, 2 months ago that he came to me and asked me to preach. And so I already know they've got me down for graduation Sunday on May 21st to preach again. And so getting to know all that, and so I know, and then I was like, okay, now I have to decide what I'm going to preach on. So I pray about it, think about it, pray to God, like, what needs to be heard. Then I was like, okay, make sure that no one has preached this recently, because I don't want to double dip somewhere. And so I think back to that. And so it was probably about 3 or 4 weeks ago. We were going through Easter and everything, and I just remember thinking, I'm tired. Like, there's a lot going on. Easter's a busy time for everyone, busy going on with family stuff, with things going on here, youth, with going to different activities, and I'm sure you guys can relate to being tired as well. I know there are different times in your life where some of you may be great and not be tired at all. Some of you are tired, even right now, with what may be going on in life. I know there are many different things that make us tired, whether it be schoolwork, or your jobs, or maybe it's health issues, or maybe it's just life. You're tired of just things going on in life, and just tired. And it's not a bad thing. It's not an awful thing, but it's a reminder to us that we need to make sure to rest in God. Because I look back on my life in times where I've been extremely tired. Probably one of the bigger times was whenever I was wrapping up my seminary, getting my master's degree. It was my last year, so I was just starting in my fall, and that Labor Day weekend was the weekend that my grandma ended up passing that next week. And so, like, my mom would call me that week and was like, hey, you need to get up here and come see everyone. So, being in Fort Worth, going to Northwest Missouri, about a 10-hour drive. And so, I did that drive on, when was it? I think that was on Friday. I went up there on that Friday, spent the weekend up there, drove back on Labor Day, see Pat's the next day. So then on Wednesday, after I was finished with youth and everything, I drove back up there, stopped in Oklahoma City for the night, drove the rest of the way the next morning, did all the funeral services that weekend, and then drove back that Sunday. Ended up driving 2 trips back and forth. So driving 40 hours in 10 days and getting to spend more time in my car than I got to spend in my own bed during that time frame. And all that time in seminary, I was learning Hebrew and having to learn a whole different language and everything like that. And the first couple weeks were extremely important because I needed to learn the letters and need to learn some of the basic words. And if you ever looked at Hebrew, it looks like chicken scratches. And so, not having any familiarity with it at all, I was already behind, way behind, because you can't be looking at flashcards of the letters as you're driving down the road on I-35. Just wouldn't end well. And so I was tired at that time. And, there's different degrees of being tired and everything. I mean, last week I was just tired from just running around everywhere. But we need to make sure, while we're tired, to be resting in the Lord. This is what Psalms 23 talks about. So I'm going to do something different. If you will, stand up as we read Psalm 23. It's only 6 verses, so you know, but if you will, stand up and rise as we read these 6 verses. As I read these 6 verses. You don't have to follow me. It says in verse 1, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul and leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table for me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Maybe see. This is a psalm that I'm sure many of you are familiar with. I feel like it's one of those psalms that everyone knows. It's heard quite often. Just spending time to meditate on it as well. as well in understanding what it is. First part of chapter of Psalm 23, it's talking about the Lord providing for us every day. David describes the Lord here as a shepherd. Now, David was a shepherd. This would have been a very familiar position to him, even as he grew older, because this was his first job. I'm sure many of you can relate to your first job, whatever it may be. I know I worked at Dairy Queen as my first official job, and served ice cream and got to turn the blizzards upside down and everything like that. Only ever dropped one of them. But I remember that first job. But it wasn't by any means the first time I ever worked, because we lived on a small farm, and so we always had animals of some kind. I remember there was rarely a time we didn't have chickens on our farm. We always had chicken and fresh eggs. Sometimes we butchered chickens as well. We had goats, I know, when I was real little. And we even had a few cows as we got into my teenage years here and there. But even before that, I remember when we were little, my parents would take care of the baseball field. And so during the summers, we would go to the baseball field and make sure the grass was good, make sure the lines were marked, the field was smooth, that there weren't any rocks on the dirt. Because if you slide on rocks, it is not fun. And so we made sure all the lines were down, the lines were straight, and took care of that. And oftentimes, me and my brothers were there helping them out in whatever way we could. We usually weren't drawing the lines down the foul line because those need to be straight. And if we drew them, they probably weren't going to be straight. But we still helped out in many different ways, or just hung out there on the stands, just making sure we didn't get into too much trouble. But we were able to enjoy that time. And David was able to understand what a shepherd was. He knew what that job entailed and knew how God was like a shepherd as well. The shepherd took care of the sheep. The shepherd guided the sheep wherever they went. In Israel, they had to go from field to field and from water to water for the sheep. They didn't just stay in one spot, but they traveled. They walked many miles to and from different fields and waters so that all the sheep could be fed, so that they could be alive, and to care for it. And so he knew what it took to be a shepherd, to take care of them. Even though Israel is not like Missouri, where we have all the nice green grass, and around here we have the Missouri River and water, creeks and rivers and ponds and all that stuff around today. Israel is not like that. It's very rocky. It's very dry. It's in the middle. It's in the Middle East, and so some parts it's nice and green, but other parts it's very dry. It's rocky like it is further south of here in the Ozarks, and the ground can be very rough and hilly. And so David knew this. David knew what the landscape would be like, and even though it was difficult at times for him to walk with the sheep and to travel from place to place, he knew that God walked with us just like the shepherd walked with the sheep every step of the way. He knew that God was always with us and following him, no matter the terrain, no matter how far it was from one patch of green grass to the next. God was with us every single step of the way, wherever we may go. That may happen in our lifetime too, where there are just different green patches, where we might be going through a difficult time at some point. We might be going through times where we're able to sit by the water and be in green pastures. Yet God puts us there to let us rest, to let us be restored, to follow us along his path. Because if a sheep is astray, then it's not going to survive in the wilderness. And so God makes sure that we all stay in the same path. God keeps us together. God keeps us to where we're able to be with him and to have that green grass. Which is why Jesus, in the parable of the lost sheep, he seeks after the one that's lost and leaves the 99. The 99 were safe because they were together. It was the one that was in danger. That's why Jesus keeps going after us. So the Lord, he provides for us every step of the way, just like a shepherd provides for the sheep. Yet the Lord protects as well, because while we travel from field to field in different aspects of different points in our life, there are dangers in our life as well. Looking at verse 4, it says, "Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For you are with me, your rod and your staff, they comfort me." So the Lord protects us every step of our life. You know, there are times when it may seem dark, when it may seem troubled times, whatever may be going on in our life. There may be difficult times. Just like a shepherd would walk across Israel, there were times whenever they could be in more danger than others. There was one area that they would pass through that was called wadis, W-A-D-I, where it would be whenever they would get the spring rain, it would carve out parts of the hillside, and water would be gushing down here, and so these would be left. There were just valleys that were left. They were extremely humid. They were rocky terrain. They were in danger because there could be people hiding in there that were seeking harm to the sheep and to the shepherd. And so, but they would have to cross through these because that was the path to go to the next area, to go to the next water or grass for the sheep to eat or drink, whatever it may be. And so they would have to continually pass through these. And so these were dangers. These were those valleys that shepherds had to go through regularly and make sure that the sheep were protected and make sure that nothing was going on there. Sorry, my microphone is keep messing up. Okay. I think it's good. But you know, we have a great shepherd who makes sure that we are protected, that nothing will harm us or fail us. Here it says, your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You know, we usually think rod and staff, usually they don't bring comfort to us, because they're usually used on us, we think. Where, you know, my mom always used a wooden spoon, and so we had to watch out for the wooden spoon. Some of you probably had switches growing up, where you had to go pick your own tree branches to use as a punishment. You know, these were not used necessarily for punishment, though. You think of staff, most of us are familiar with the shepherd's hook, with a long walking stick with a hook on the end, used to guide and to put the sheep back in line, and the shepherd will walk around with it. That's fairly common. The rod we may not be as familiar with. What they would have had would have been about the length of a baseball bat. Would have had like rounded pieces of wood on it that they could grip it on, but then it would have a big ball chunk at the end of it, so that if there was an animal or an enemy coming, whether it be people or it be a wild animal that was coming to harm the sheep, they could whack them really hard, and if they could get a good enough swing, kill them. But especially make sure that they didn't want to stay there any longer, because they would get hurt. They would get it would be a good deterrent to stay away. So the shepherd, and David probably especially, would have been very adept at using these types of tools. Would have been very good at a rod, because he had to fight off lions and other animals that would have attacked the sheep for an easy meal. He would have had to fight off these wild animals to make sure that his sheep were protected. So he knew God was like a shepherd in that he always protects those who are underneath his care. He always protects those, whatever may be going on, that they, using his rod to bat away the enemies, that nothing will harm us. You know, God will protect us. Underneath God, nothing can harm us. God has defeated the greatest enemy ever. Jesus has defeated death. So Jesus defeating death, there is no enemy that God cannot overcome. God has won every battle. The devil may be putting up a good fight, but in the end he will lose. So we look to God. We look at the victory that he brings. That even though there may be a difficult time, even though we may be going through a valley, even though there may be dangers all around us, we know where we're going to end up. We know where God is leading us, and we trust in him every step of the way. We also see where God prepares. In verse 5 and 6, it says, you prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. See, the Lord prepares for us. The Lord is preparing for us a table, a meal at the end that we're able to join with him. I'm sure after a long day's work, whatever you may be doing, whether it's an office job or out on the farm or teacher or wherever else it may be, it'd be nice to go home and to have all your meal ready to go on the supper table. Especially after a long, hard day where maybe extremely just everything gone wrong, everything just a difficult day, it'd be nice just to show up and the table ready to go, that the food's ready just to go and eat at. What would be even better is if your enemies were having to watch you eat as well. The people who didn't like you, the people who fought against you, that they had to watch you eat as well. Because when you eat, you're at a place of comfort. You're at a place where you're able just to settle down. You're not in a fight anymore. And so God here, not only has He prepared for us, but He's also mocking the enemies because their mission failed. They failed to thwart you and to stop you from enjoying that time at the dinner table. And so while you're able to be there in victory, being able to relax, being able to be ready for rest at the end of a long, hard day, your enemies are able to watch you enjoy it. And that is what God's preparing for us. You know, we all go through difficult days. There are difficult times in each one of our lives, whatever may be going on. But yet we know God has a table ready for us. We know that He has a room built for us that Jesus is preparing for us wherever we get up to. We know God is getting ready for us to join Him and getting ready for Jesus to come back, that He may create a new heaven and an earth that we're able to enjoy in that resurrected body, that we're able to enjoy with no more sin. We're able to look forward to that day. So we're able to look forward to whenever that long, hard day's work is over. And you know, the table will be ready for us. But if you're sitting in here today, if you are still walking and talking and breathing, God's not done yet. God still has a plan for each and every one of us, whatever it may be. God is still here for each and every one of us. He has a purpose for each and every one of us. He still has a plan for you to do for you in this world. I mean, he said a little bit about the Gideons still going. I think you're still young. I think you're still got plenty of years left to go for the Gideon Bibles. But you know, God has a purpose for each and every one of us, whatever it may be going on in our lives. We each have friends and family that we're around every day. They were able to influence. They were able to talk to. They were able to share with them of God's love and mercy and the salvation that He brings. God still has a purpose for us. You know, verse 5 says that God anoints my head with oil. Sounds kind of weird to some of us, but why God would put oil on our heads. You know, as I was reading this and reading some commentaries and even listening to another preacher preach on this passage, I learned that this was very beneficial for sheep, because sometimes sheep would get flies around their faces and they'd get sores and they would get hurt, and it could end up causing a lot of problems if it wasn't treated well. And one of the remedies was that they would just get oil and they would pour it on their heads so that they would cover those up and the flies would stay away. They wouldn't lay on their heads anymore, and so they were actually able to heal. They were able to take that time for any sores that popped up to heal. They could keep pouring oil on it to make sure that nothing would lay on it, nothing would bother it. And so, you know, even if there are irritating things like flies, because like sheep to flies are extremely small compared to sheep. There's not a whole lot that a fly could do to a sheep, at least in one go. But yet they were able to be a nuisance to them. God's able to protect us each and every day. Whatever may be bothering us, whether enemies, bugs, wounds maybe forming, God heals us. God takes the time to care for us. God pours the healing oil over our heads that whatever hurts may have been in the past, whatever flies may be bothering around our heads, He heals us. He takes time to care for each one of our wounds. God protects us from other things harming us as well, that nothing can harm us. Some of that's just resting in the Lord, taking that time to read His Word, taking that time to be in His church, taking that time to serve Him, to share the gospel with others, to worship Him. And knowing that He protects us, knowing that we still walk from field to field, but yet God protects us from the small enemies like the flies, from the bigger ones. God protects us every step of the way. Verse 6 says, "Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever." So wherever we may go, wherever this life may take us, God's goodness and mercy will follow us every single day. It doesn't matter how far you go. It doesn't matter wherever you may end up. God's goodness and mercy shall follow us. You know, we're never alone. Whatever may be going on, even if we are the one of the 99 that's been led astray, God knows that God's goodness and mercy follows us every single day. We take comfort in that, knowing that God is good, that He seeks to do what is best for us. He seeks out what would be best for us. It may not always be what we think it is, but yet He seeks what's good for us and His mercy every day. I'm thankful for His mercy. Thankful that God doesn't give to us what we deserve, because we're all sinners. We've all fallen short. We've all disobeyed at some point in time. But yet God had grace as well, that He'd be willing to forgive us of our sins, no matter how far we do. His goodness and mercy shall follow us every single day. And we look forward to being in the house of the Lord. You know, today's the Sabbath. Today's a day of rest. Today's a good day if you're able to just to relax, to take a day off. You know, God has done this from the very beginning, that we are to take a day of rest, to relax, to be able to just not work. You know, we have 6 other days to work. Take one day and rest. We need to make sure we are resting. We are regularly taking a break. We're not meant to run around all the time. We're not meant to constantly be on the go. We need to also make sure to rest in the Lord, to take a break, and to make sure to have. Maybe today, as the worship leaders come down to pray, you need to rest. You need to take that break. You need to stop working for a time. Maybe you are tired. Maybe you do need to lay something down. Maybe there is something that has been bothering you, that you have been carrying around, that you have been worrying about, whatever it may be. Give it to Jesus. Jesus says His burden is easy and light. So take up His burden. Whatever it may be, make sure that we are following Him. Jesus' load is light. So take the rest of the Lord provides today. If you will, join me in prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank You for the rest that You provide. God, we go around and many of us searching, many of us trying to find fulfillment. But God, You are the only one who truly fulfills. God, let us take the rest in You. Today, let us take rest, but eternally, God, let us rest in You. Let us know that whatever may be going on, God, at the end, we will be able to join You at the table, to be able to eat with You, to be able to rejoice with You. And God, that we're able to praise Your name. We thank You for always being there, God, for providing and protecting us and preparing for us in our time walking from field to field. And God, we pray all this in Your Son's name. Amen.
Let's stand as we sing. The Savior is waiting to enter your heart. Why don't you let Him come in? There's nothing in this world to keep you apart. What is your answer to open the door.
you, the FEMA, if you guys would just want to head to the FEMA Night Center right after this, there's a couple of papers on the table right as you enter, just with summer stuff that I'm going to give you guys and just go over real quick. So grab those and I'll be in there as soon as I can. So, Adam, would you mind praying for us as we go from here?
Father, thank you for giving us this morning.